Welcome to the Resume Development CECE On Demand workshop. My name is Elizabeth and I am a career counselor at the Center for Career Education and Community Engagement. Some of the topics that we will discuss today will include the purpose of a resume, formatting, creating strong experience statements by utilizing the WHO method, additional resume tips, and I will also be sharing resume resources. What is a resume? A resume is a document that describes who you are as a professional based on your skills, experiences, abilities, and potential. Some examples of when you would utilize or need a resume will include if you are interested in searching for job opportunities, internships, volunteer opportunities, or even applying for graduate school, and in some occasions, even scholarships. Those are just some examples of when you would need to submit a copy of your resume. One of the things that I want to go over is the format of a resume. A resume must be neat, consistent, and visually appealing. Your name and contact information should be listed at the top of your document. It should be the first thing that the reader should see. A resume is composed of different headings or different sections, and it is important to utilize some form of formatting technique in order for those different headings to pop out from your resume. For example, you can bold a heading, you can utilize all capitals for a heading, or you can utilize some form of spacing technique in order for your heading to stand out. On the example on the screen, I see a couple of headings such as profile, summary of skills, education, experience, honors, and activities. It is important to present your information consistently. For example, for your date formatting, are you spelling out the month? Are you utilizing digits for the month? Or are you abbreviating that information? The order in which you list that information on the resume is also important. For example, where you are placing the name of the organization, the location, your date spans, and your position titles. You also want to remain consistent with the font and the font size that you are utilizing on your resume. In addition, if you are indenting any information or the margins that you include on your resume, you also want to remain consistent with that information as well. One of the most common questions that we get is, how long should my resume be? That is going to vary based on the student, right? All students are different based on their education, based on their experience. However, 1 page is recommended, but it is not mandatory. Please keep in mind that the order and how you place these different sections or headings on your resume can vary. However, your first and last name and all of your contact information should remain at the top of the page. If you were to search for resume templates on Google or open a Word document and search for resume templates, you will find several different examples. Some will have colored font, some will have borders, some will have pictures, graphics, text boxes, etc. You want to be cautious when you are utilizing templates that you find online because they are difficult to modify and they can cause issues or conflict with resume scanning softwares, or also known as the ATS system. Unless you are in a creative field, traditional formats are more professional. What is a ATS system, or the automated tracking system? This is a software that employers and companies utilize in order to collect and evaluate applicant resumes. Your resume may not be seen by a recruiter if it does not make it through this initial screening process. It is important to recognize that there are certain fonts or formats that the system cannot properly process your information. That's why it is important that you are cautious with the resume templates that you find online. If the resume has color fonts, borders, graphics, or pictures, the system has a hard time reading and processing the information on your document. When you utilize very unique fonts on your resume, for example, on the screen, I am reading California State University, Bakersfield. For the degree, I am seeing Bachelor of Arts, Criminal Justice. The system is unable to read the specific fonts, and instead of reading your education section, it can be translated into little squares or little boxes. Again, the system cannot read this information. If you include information in the header of your document and text boxes or some type of table, this system cannot read your information, or in some instances, your information can be moved all around the document. So you want to be cautious of the resume templates that you find online and you're utilizing in order to apply for specific positions. You can be the perfect candidate for the position, but if your resume is not making it through this ATS system, you might be missing out on some opportunities. What can you do to make your resume ATS compatible? Again, you want to make sure that you're consistent with your formatting, how you place that information on your resume, in what order, and for your dates, are you using digits, spelling out the months, or maybe abbreviating that information? It is also important for those headings to pop out on your resume. You can utilize bold text or utilize all capitals. It is recommended to utilize a font size 10 to 12, nothing smaller than a font size 10. Which fonts should you be utilizing on your resume? That way, the ATS system can read your information properly. You want to make sure that you are utilizing standard serif or sans serif font. Some examples will include Cambria, Times New Roman, Arial, just to name a few. What should you stay away from? You want to make sure that you are staying away from including text boxes on your resume. Again, the system cannot read any information that is included in the text boxes. You also want to stay away from including columns or tables in order to organize information. Color fonts and borders are not recommended to include on a resume. You should also avoid to include information in the header or the footer of your document. The system cannot read information that is listed in there. You want to stay away from underlining words, including any type of arrows, check marks, or other icons. And you should never include a picture of yourself or include graphics on your resume. I will now introduce the different sections of a resume. The first section will include your name and contact information. This information should be listed at the top of your document, but you don't want to include it in the header. It is okay if you utilize a larger font for your name in order for it to stand out. Now, including your entire address or mailing address is not required. However, we do recommend that you at least include your city and state. You should also include your phone number. If your voicemail is not set up, you want to make sure that you set up your voicemail. Or if your voicemail is set up, you want to make sure that your voicemail is not full. You must utilize a professional email address on your resume. If your email address is partywithme661@gmail.com, you will not be taken seriously. Recruiters and hiring managers will not take the time to reach out to you and schedule an interview. So you want to be cautious with the email address that you are including on your resume. You can include your CSUB email address, or if you don't have a professional email address, you can create one with a combination of your first and last name or vice versa. Again, you want to make sure that you utilize a professional email address. If you have a LinkedIn account, you can actually include your LinkedIn URL. If you don't, that is okay. Another section that you can include on your resume would be some form of profile, objective, or professional summary. Please keep in mind that these sections are optional. They are not required to be included on a resume. However, if you do decide to include this section on your resume, you must only include one. What is a profile or professional summary? It is a short paragraph to highlight your skills, accomplishments, and knowledge. For example, criminal justice undergraduate students with excellent communication and critical thinking skills, bilingual, computer literate, and reliable, seeking an internship with a juvenile probation agency where I can provide exceptional service to the organization and make a positive difference in the lives of youth. An objective is a one-sentence statement where you provide information about the opportunity you are seeking and what you have to offer. For example, seeking an internship with a juvenile probation agency where I can provide exceptional service to the organization and make a positive difference in the lives of youth. You want to make sure that if you incorporate one of these sections on your resume, it should be employer focused. In other words, what do you have to offer to the employer or the organization? What skill sets do you bring to the table as opposed to what are you hoping to gain out of that role or that position? For students with more experience, it is recommended to include a professional summary or a profile instead of an objective. Another section that you can include on your resume is a skills section or a summary of skills. What information can you include in this section? You can include languages. If you speak multiple languages, you can include this information on here. For example, in the language subheading, the student included bilingual and then also included the languages, Spanish and English. You can include computer or technical skills as well. In the technical subheading, the student included proficient in Microsoft Office Suite, SPSS, and Internet research. If you have any certifications that are related to your industry or the position that you are applying to, it is also recommended to include this information on the resume. You also want to make sure that you include soft skills. And if you include a soft skill, you should also include some form of supportive evidence. For example, the student included leadership in the skills section. The supportive evidence is chair of the Criminal Justice Club in which $5,000 was raised for charity. The student also included communication in the skills. The supportive evidence is prior experience with diverse clientele in both a nonprofit and retail setting. Another section that must be included in your resume is the education section. It is important to list your information in reverse chronological order if you attended more than one college or university, meaning your most recent or current university will be listed first, and then your oldest or least recent college, or university will be listed last. What information can you include in the education section? You want to make sure that you include the college or university name, for example, California State University, Bakersfield. You also want to include the city and state of the university, for example, Bakersfield, California. You should also include your major or degree title, Bachelor of Arts, Criminal Justice, and if you have a minor, concentration, or emphasis, you can also include this information here. The student is pursuing a minor in sociology. You will also include your date spans, meaning the month and year that you began at the university, -present since you are a current student at the university. If you know your anticipated graduation date, it is recommended to include that information on your resume. This gives the reader an idea of how far away or close you are from graduating, and you can include the month and year that you anticipate to graduate. If you don't know this information, it is okay to leave it out of your resume. This student attended Bakersfield College prior to coming to CSUB, so they made sure to include that information under CSUB, and they spelled out the college name, Bakersfield College. They also added city and state. At Bakersfield College, the student completed their associate's degree in sociology, and they included date spans as well, month and year that they began at Bakersfield College, ending month and year. Now, if you notice, high school information is not listed in the education section. The reason for this is because the student is already a college student. It tells the reader that they have satisfied that requirement. Other information that can be listed in the education section can include your GPA, if it is higher than a 3.0, Dean's List, or relevant coursework you have taken. Another section that must be included on your resume is an experience section. Just like you would in the education section, by listing the information in reverse chronological order, you would do the same in the experience section, meaning you would list your most recent or current experience first, followed by the least recent experience. What information can you include in the experience section? You want to make sure that you are including the organization name. For example, the student listed the Bakersfield Homeless Shelter. You also want to make sure that you are including city and state of the organization. In this case, it is Bakersfield, California. You also need to include your position title. The student was a volunteer at the Bakersfield Homeless Shelter. And then you should also include your date range, month and year that you began at that organization, -present if you are still volunteering, or starting month and year, followed by ending month and year if you are no longer part of that organization. Followed by that information, you should also include a couple of bullet points describing what were your duties and your responsibilities in that specific role at that specific organization. You want to make sure that you are incorporating keywords and key skills in your experience statements, and you also want to make sure that you begin each statement with an action verb. For example, you organized, you filed, you answered, you helped. When you are building your experience statements on your resume, it is recommended to utilize bullet point statements as opposed to long paragraphs. You also want to be cautious of when you are utilizing present tense versus past tense. If you are describing your duties and responsibilities of your current position, you want to make sure that you are writing in present tense. If it is for a position that you have done in the past, you want to make sure that you are writing in past tense. You also want to stay away from utilizing personal pronouns on your resume, such as I or my. So you never want to include I completed this or my team and I completed this. The only exception where you can utilize personal pronouns such as I or my will be in your objective, profile, or summary if you include that on your resume. You want to keep in mind that experiences are not only paid experiences. So for students who do not have a lot of work experience, you can include other potential headings on your resume. So instead of including work experience, you can include a projects section. You can include a direct experience section, additional experience. Maybe if you have completed multiple internships, you can include an internship experience. Or if you completed a couple of research projects, you can include research experience on your resume instead. So depending on your experience level, you have that option of including different headings on your resume to describe your experience to the reader. Another section that can be included on your resume, but is optional, is a honors and activities section. If you decide to include this section on your resume, you will include the organization's name, for example, CSUB Criminal Justice Club, followed by your affiliation, chair. In this instance, the student is the chair of the club. Maybe the student, if you're a member of a club, you can include member instead. If you're a vice president, you can include vice president. You must also include your date range, meaning month and year that you began with the club, hyphen present if you are still part of the club. If you are no longer part of the club, you will include starting month and year, hyphen ending month and year. If you decide to not include Dean's List in the education section, you can include it in the honor section. You can include CSUB Dean's List, followed by the semester and the year that you obtained Dean's List. When you are updating your resume or building your resume for the first time, it is important to analyze that job description and pay attention to what are some of the skill sets that the employer or this company is looking for. For example, someone who has great communication skills, maybe someone who can work in a team, or someone who can take initiative. If you have those skill sets that you are seeing on the job description, it is important to include them under the appropriate experience. Earlier, I had mentioned that in the experience section, you want to make sure that you are incorporating or adding experience statements. How can you build those experience statements? I will go ahead and introduce something that is called the WHO method that will help you build and strengthen those experience statements. The W stands for what did you do? The H stands for how did you do it? And then the O is for the outcome that is associated with that specific duty or that specific responsibility that you had. It is recommended to incorporate 2 or all 3 elements into a bullet point statement. For instance, did W by using H to achieve O, used H to do W to achieve O, or accomplished O by doing W using H. I want to go ahead and share some examples of the WHO method. In this scenario, John is volunteering at the Bakersfield Homeless Shelter and has also worked as a sales associate at the Gap. For the Bakersfield Homeless Shelter volunteer opportunity, John only listed that he helped children and assist families. When John was a sales associate at the Gap, John only listed that he assisted customers and performed cashiering duties. It doesn't tell the reader a lot of information of what John was doing for the specific roles. By incorporating the WHO method, it will allow you to strengthen these statements. It will help you stay away from 2 to 3 word statements, and it will also help you because you never want the reader to assume or guess what you were doing in this specific role. If you were to incorporate the WHO method when John was volunteering at the Bakersfield Homeless Shelter, what was John doing? Help children complete assignments. How? Work with professional staff. And what was the outcome? Stay current with grade level. What else did John do? Assist individuals and families. How? Identify services available in the area. And what was the outcome? Develop understanding of community resources. Now, when you incorporate all these 3 elements together, it's going to give you one sentence, which is that one bullet point statement on your resume. And when you incorporate all these 3 elements, your statement might sound something like this. Worked with professional staff to help children complete academic assignments to stay current with grade level. Developed excellent understanding of community resources by assisting individuals and families to identify services in the area. When John was working at the Gap, what did John do? Assist customers. How? Knowing the products well and listening to customers' needs. What was the outcome? High sales volume. John also handled cash transactions. How? Accurately followed company policies and procedures. And what was the outcome? Happy customers. Again, when you incorporate the WHO method, it will give you that one statement, and it can sound something like this. Utilize excellent product knowledge while working with customers to assist with merchandise selection and promote high sales volume. Accurately processed purchase and return transaction, following all policies and procedures to ensure customer satisfaction. Now, if you would like to take it a step advanced, after incorporating the WHO method to your statements, you can also qualify and quantify your statements. For example, if a student included this statement in the experience section of the resume, collaborated with a team of students to determine composition of rock samples from New Mexico using laboratory techniques, how can the student quantify or qualify the statement? The team of students was actually composed of 4 undergraduate and 2 master level geology students. How many rock samples was the student analyzing? It was 35 volcanic rock samples. And not only were they determining composition, but also mineral content. The rock samples came from a specific region of New Mexico, which is the Ciénaga region. And the laboratory techniques that the student was utilizing included chemical analysis, spectrographic analysis, and X-ray diffraction. When quantifying your statements, you can also provide an amount, a frequency, and even a scale. For example, for students who have management experience or have supervised employees, they can include supervised 10 to 12 employees. So you can provide a range or a specific amount, maybe supervised 10 employees. You can also include a frequency, supervised 10 to 12 employees per shift. And if you would like to include a scale, you can. Supervised 10 to 12 employees per shift, representing 75% of daily workforce. Other additional resume tips that I will be sharing with you today include writing your resume to emphasize the direction you are progressing towards. Again, when you are building this resume or updating your resume, it is important to analyze that description of the position that you are interested in applying to and getting a good understanding of what type of candidates are they looking for? What type of skill sets are they searching for? Is it someone who can problem solve, someone who has great customer service, someone who could work well in a team? Again, if you possess and you have those skills that they're looking for, please make sure that you are incorporating those keywords into your resume. You also want to make sure that you create a master copy that you can tailor for each specific position. Each resume that you create should be tailored to the position that you are applying to. So it is okay if you have one master copy and you begin to edit and tailor that copy for that specific position that you're applying to. So you might have your master copy and then copy 2, copy 3, copy 4, etc. You never want to underestimate the importance of your experiences. In some instances, some students may not have a lot of work experience, so maybe they have done some babysitting over the summer or volunteered at a school to do tutoring after school. Whether this position is paid or unpaid, you want to think about something that is called transferable skills. skills that you gained in one setting and you are able to implement in another setting. Maybe when you were tutoring in the after-school program, some of the skill sets that you gained was communication skills, listening skills. These two specific skill sets are skills that are able to be utilized in a different setting. So maybe if you want to work in the medical field in the future, listening skills and communication skills are essential, right? To assist patients, to make them feel comfortable. Or maybe if you are interested in working in business in the future, communication and listening skills, again, are essential skills that are important and can be used in a different setting as well. You also want to make sure that you get your resume proofread. It is not only a document that describes who you are as a professional, but it serves as a writing sample. Information that should not be included on your resume should be reference information. You don't want to include references on your resume. That information can be listed on a separate page or on the application. In addition, you also do not want to share personal information, such as race and ethnicity, your date of birth, social security number, bank information, what do you like to do on the weekends, how many dogs and cats do you have at home. Again, remember, this resume describes who you are as a professional. There is certain information that should not be included on your resume. I will also include a picture of yourself should not be included on there, or how old you are. It is beneficial to get in the habit to start including your name when you are saving your resume. I will now be sharing some resume resources that are available on our website, which is csub.edu/CECE. There are several resume samples that you can utilize as your own. Each bullet point is a Word document. So when you click on that link, it will open as a Word document and you have access to utilize that document and make changes to it. If you notice some are guided or tailored to specific majors, that is okay. You're not required to utilize that specific resume. You can utilize whichever resume you find most beneficial. It's just that each resume looks a little bit different. In addition to resume samples, you also have access to resume writing resources. If you need a format guide, you can click on that link and it will give you information. If you need additional information about the WHO method and how can you create strong experience statements, you can also utilize that link. If you feel that you are running out of action verbs when you are writing your experience statements, or you are utilizing the same action verbs and you're not sure what other action verbs you can incorporate, you can utilize this list of action verbs in which you are able to utilize and implement into your resume. If you feel like you need some assistance on staying on track of what to include and not to include on your resume, you can utilize the resume rubric as well that will provide you with that assistance. Another resume resource that I want to share with you is getting electronic feedback by uploading your resume into Handshake. The link to Handshake is csub.joinhandshake.com. All students should have a Handshake account. It's just a matter of logging in and activating that account. In order to log into Handshake, you will need to utilize your My CECUB credentials to sign in. When you log into Handshake, your main page will look something very similar to this. On the top right corner, you will see your initials. You will click on there, and then in the drop-down list, you will click on My Documents. This will give you the option to upload your resume into Handshake. Once you submit it, one of the career counselors will receive it. They will review it and then email it back to you with feedback. Since it is a career counselor who is reviewing these resumes, we ask you that you give us anywhere between 1 to 3 business days to give us that time to review the document and provide you with that feedback. If you feel that you need additional assistance with your resume, or maybe you don't want to get electronic feedback, you would like to talk to someone, you have the option to schedule an appointment, and you can do that through Handshake. On the left side of the screen, there are different tabs. You will click on the Career Center tab, and then you will click on the Appointments box, and then you can choose the date and time that best fits your schedule. Or the other option would be to stop by during our walk-in hours. For walk-in hours, it is a 20-minute session with a career counselor as opposed to the appointment, which is 45 minutes. You don't need an appointment for walk-in hours. You would just come in during our walk-in hours, generally scheduled Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday during specific timeframes. And then you can get some assistance if you need help with the resume or if you have questions about your resume. Other CECE services that are available, as I mentioned, you could schedule an appointment with a career counselor via Handshake. If you need assistance in practicing interviewing, you can access Big Interview via Handshake. To get more information for our upcoming career fairs, you can RSVP in Handshake and search for those career fairs in the Events tab. You can also connect with employers via info sessions and tables. Further information is available in Handshake. And then you are also able to access other workshop presentations in the Resources tab. On our CECE website, as I mentioned earlier, you have access to seeing resume samples. You also are able to see our CECE on-demand recorded workshops. You'll be able to view the walk-in schedule on our website. The flyer is available on there. There are also resources for interview skill building. And if you are interested in exploring major and career tools, you can find that information and much more on our website. We recommend that you connect with us via social media, LinkedIn, in order to get up-to-date information about our events and our resources that are available to you. You can find us at CECUB CECE. There are 2 QR codes listed on the screen. One will take you directly to our website where you're able to see those resources. And the second QR link will take you to our YouTube channel where you are able to see other recorded workshops as well. Your feedback is important to us. Please take a few minutes to complete our workshop survey. Let us know what other career-related topics you would like us to present on. You can scan the QR code to provide us with some feedback. Thank you for watching the Resume Development Workshop.